Do you want to poop ASAP? Then this is the video for you. In this video, I'm going to cover 6 or 8 different things that can help you poop ASAP and get that sweet, sweet constipation relief. Before we get into these things though, I'll show you the continuum that I've painted behind me on the board. So you can see that it goes from gentle to less gentle, right? I was going to say extreme, but frankly, that felt extreme. And not everybody will think that the things on this side are actually extreme. So I decided to label it as gentle and less gentle. You could think of this as really well tolerated by the majority of people and maybe a little bit less tolerated or could elicit some symptoms, or like super safe and maybe a little bit less safe, or easy to do, not messy versus a little harder to do or a little bit more messy. You'll see when we get there. But I wanted to organize this information in this way so that we can start down here at the gentle, safe, effective stuff and then gradually move our way over to this side. Because most of you are probably going to get benefit from the things that I talk about over here, and you won't ever need to progress to that other side. But for the people who do, maybe you've tried the things over here, then we can talk about the stuff that's over on this side of the continuum. So without further ado, let's get into the first one that I think a lot of you will be big fans of for sure. And this is old coffee, the bean juice, the warm dirt water, whatever. You can tell I'm not a coffee drinker. If you enjoy coffee and you know it helps you poop, maybe you could have a little bit more coffee. Now, there is within a line of reason to this, right? If you are pooping great, but you're drinking like an 8-cup carafe of coffee every day, you might be abusing this fine tool. But if you could have a cup or 2 or 3 per day and poop great, I think that's a win. It's not to say that you're constipated because you have a coffee deficiency. I understand that. But coffee consumption at low to moderate levels actually does have a lot of health promoting benefits to it. It's associated with lower risk of all-cause mortality, lower risk of cardiovascular disease, and there are antioxidants and polyphenols that feed your good microbes. So if you are a coffee drinker, if you enjoy it, and you could have a cup or 2 or 3 a day to help you poop, I think that that is a pretty gentle, effective, holistic thing that you could do for yourself. Number 2, I mentioned in my root cause of constipation video. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But the next one on the list that I wanted to mention is magnesium. Particularly, I'm going to put here magnesium citrate, because that is the form of magnesium that has a little bit more of a laxative kind of quality to it as opposed to some of the other forms. Now, it's worth noting, magnesium citrate is going to elicit a bowel movement if you get up to a high enough dose in most everybody, versus if you took a whole crap ton of magnesium glycinate or magnesium oxide or one of the other forms, it may or may not have that effect. What I have seen clinically is that if you are magnesium deficient and you take magnesium glycinate or one of the other forms, then yes, it can normalize constipation. But if you're not overtly magnesium deficient, taking something like magnesium glycinate isn't necessarily going to trigger a bowel movement for you. But like I said, if you get up to a high enough dose on magnesium citrate, something like Natural Calm, it will. The thing to know about this, and I put this one notch higher than coffee for a reason, because you've got to understand the intricacies of nutrition just a teensy weensy bit. If you take a whole boatload of one mineral, it tends to suppress the absorption of other minerals. So if you're taking a heaping helping of magnesium, particularly chronically every day, that can actually throttle down your ability to absorb iron, copper, zinc, and calcium. So that's not something you want to do for a prolonged period of time. I think if you kind of get a sense of how much magnesium you're getting through your food with an app like Chronometer and a food diary or working with a dietitian, and then you can use supplements to bridge that gap, I think that's the best way to do that. For example, I've noticed over the years with Chronometer tracking that I tend to come up maybe like 100 or 150 milligrams short every day on magnesium. So I take one 150 milligram capsule before bed most nights. So I'm kind of bridging that gap between what I'm currently consuming and where I would like to be from a nutritional standpoint. If you overshoot the RDA by a whole ton, you're going to possibly get into trouble. And I had 2 examples of this in FODMAP Freedom. I think it was our last class, but maybe the class before. I had 2 women in there who confessed partway through the program that they were taking something like 1,200 or 1,500 milligrams of magnesium citrate every single night. To put in perspective, the RDA, or the daily value for magnesium, is I think 320 milligrams for women and 400 for men. So they were easily tripling, if not quadrupling, depending on their food intake, their need for magnesium. And they were overusing and abusing this one tool to make them poop. So magnesium citrate is cool. It does work, but don't overdo it. You can't go guns a-blazing into magnesium and cause deficiency in all the other nutrients that I rattled off. Thus, one notch above coffee. Now, in my last video, I talked about probiotics for constipation. It's worth noting, I'm not going to put it on this board because this is a board about fast constipation relief. So if you drink coffee, you might poop later that same day. If you take magnesium citrate at bed, you will probably poop in the morning. Probiotics are not always that quick. There were a lot of studies in that video that I shared that said that they saw a very marked improvement within about a week. So they're kind of medium fast, but they're not overnight fast like the things I'm talking about here. But I would probably put the probiotics somewhere in this kind of like still very gentle, reasonably well tolerated zone, but I would put them maybe like a little notch above magnesium if I were to put them on the board, which again, I'm not. Now, moving up, we have the prebiotic conversation. The prebiotic / fiber supplement kind of convo would be our number 3. Now, I put this here because I don't think they're quite as fast as some of the other ones on the board. I think something like coffee or magnesium citrate would probably work within a day versus the prebiotics might take a day or 2 or 3 to really kick in. And sometimes they can cause a little bit of tummy upset or bloating if you're not used to eating all that fiber, but they do work really well. So I mentioned these in the root cause of constipation video, I believe, or one of the constipation videos. I don't even know anymore. But things like glucomannan, famously psyllium husk, aka like Metamucil, something like that, or PHGG, those 3 prebiotics are really good for constipation specifically. And I do find that they start to kick in reasonably quickly within the span of a couple of days once you start getting the dose up in the range that it needs to be. So I'm going to plunk them right in the middle of the board. Now, we start getting into the herbal laxative category right about here. So herbal laxative. There are 2 that I want to bring to your attention. One is very widely available. You could probably go to the supermarket and buy it. You probably actually already have. And the other one you would need to order online, but I do find that it works really well and it's very travel friendly and convenient, and it's one of the ones that I use quite a lot of. So the one that's readily available, you could walk into any grocery store probably and get it, is going to be Senna, S-E-N-N-A, which is an herbal laxative, and you can find this in Smooth Move tea. It works great. Again, I think if you need to drink a whole lot of Smooth Move tea to get a bowel movement, there's probably some more work that needs to be done. But if you need the occasional help and you enjoy the taste of Smooth Move and it's something like easy and enjoyable for you to do, go for it. That does really work. You could also get Senna in capsules or tablets or other forms, but a lot of people like the Smooth Move tea. The other one that I'll mention here, and I'll actually write it down, there's a product called Super Aloe. So super, like Superman. Aloe. And that's from a company called Orthomolecular. You can get it on Fullscript. I don't know if I link my Fullscript in every video, but I'll link it for this one for sure. But it's cheap. I forget what it is. It's like $15 a bottle, and you can get it in 2 different strengths. There's a 250 and a 450. And usually if you take 1 or perhaps 2 of those capsules at night, by the next morning you're having a nice whopping bowel movement. And I've used that, A, because it works really well, B, because it's cheap, C, it's really well tolerated, and D, it's a little bit more travel friendly as opposed to taking a tea where you might not always have the ability to make a hot cup of tea. So I do like that. That's one of my go-tos for people is Super Aloe. And again, it's pretty user-friendly and cheap and effective. Now, you could arguably put a dash here for over-the-counter or like conventional medical laxatives, but I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to stay in my scope of practice and acknowledge that I'm not a prescriber and I'm not really allowed to teach you much about drugs. So I'm just not going to do that. But theoretically, we could put those, over-the-counter laxatives somewhere in this range. Instead, we're going to skip over and go to another natural tool that's available to all of us, and that is going to be the conversation of either enemas or suppositories. I'm not going to spell it all out. I'm just going to put sup, and you're going to have to figure it out. So, a couple of things. There are suppositories like glycerin suppositories that, again, are very effective. They're pretty gentle. You could use them on little kids or old people or adults, and they work reasonably well. Similar line of reasoning, if you need to rely on enemas or suppositories or laxative very frequently, then there's clearly something else beneath the surface that needs to be addressed. So go check out the root cause of constipation video that I already put up. But these can be a good, oh shit, in case of emergency, I really just need relief kind of a thing. And they do work. So again, suppositories, great. I'm going to pause for just a moment though on enemas because the weirdest thing I've ever done for YouTube. Yes, even including the time that a lab company threatened to sue me because I made a video about their shitty poop test. Even including that, the weirdest thing I've ever done for this YouTube channel, and it is a labor of love for all of you, is my coffee enema series. Because what I did was I actually did coffee enemas on myself so that I could learn the ins and outs and I could learn how to do it and I could come here and teach it to you all. So that is something, whether it's a coffee enema or just a water enema, or heck, there are butyrate enemas, probiotic enemas. There are a lot of enemas out there. But whichever one you choose, I have a tutorial video on this channel about how, cleaning and prepping the coffee and getting the bucket hung and positioning and how long to do it. I have a whole tutorial video, very weird moment of my life, creating that for you. I do think that coffee enemas could be especially good though, because again, coffee has polyphenols that are good for the microbiome. So you might inadvertently feed some good bacteria like Akkermansia while you're putting the coffee in there. And the other thing is that coffee is said to stimulate the vagus nerve, not orally ingested so much, like up the butt is what I'm talking about. But coffee enemas are said to stimulate the vagus nerve. Now, I was not able to prove that in my video personally, but maybe there's some truth to that. And I have known people who have sworn up and down that coffee enemas were miraculously helpful for them. And that was part of their motility kind of work when they had SIBO. So coffee enemas, I would label this as a little bit more extreme. It's certainly more messy. It's not going to be perfectly tolerated by everybody. So this is why it's in the top portion of the less gentle category, but it does work and it does offer quick relief. If you're doing something like a coffee enema or a butyrate or probiotic enema, I would suggest starting with just water for the first round and let that loosen up and break up some of the stool. Evacuate that, sit on the toilet, poop your brains out and get the little marbles out, and then doing a second round right then and there, and then doing the coffee or the butyrate or the probiotics or whatever you're trying to use therapeutically. Right? So you use the first one to kind of wash you out, get the marbles out, and then the second one is the retention enema that you're going to try to keep in you for a prolonged period of time. I hope this video gave you some new ideas, some new answers, and some framework of what to go off of when you do need some fast constipation relief. But what about the root cause kind of conversation, right? Why would you need to rely on herbal laxatives and suppositories and enemas? Why would you not be capable of pooping without your 3 cups of coffee that morning? What is bubbling beneath the surface that's keeping you constipated? These are the little quick, easy Band-Aids, and they're valuable, but they're not necessarily going to cure you in the way that you're probably hoping. So if you're looking for more guidance, more support, more figuring out what the heck is going on and getting to the root of the root, I would encourage you to check out FODMAP Freedom in 90 days. I'm going to link it down below. There's a wait list right now, but we are enrolling again come April. But basically, FODMAP Freedom is my group coaching program. In there, we've got more education, videos like this, handouts, PDFs, tutorials, etc. And you do those on your own time throughout the week. But then we have several, usually 4 to 6 live Q&As every single week, most of which span multiple hours. Friday afternoon is just my marathon of FODMAP freedom stuff, by the way. Like I have given away my Friday afternoons and early evenings to FODMAP freedom, and it's like this big party. I just sit and talk with all my students on Friday afternoon. But we do all of these live Q&As, and we have a support email address that you can email at any time with your questions, and we're really good about getting back to you within a day or so. But this is why. It's because I can give you the quick wins. I can try to teach you about the root causes, but sometimes figuring it out for yourself and navigating this for yourself and figuring out what actually makes the most sense for you as an individual can be challenging, and you need a little bit more support. So if you're ready for something different and you're ready to finally poop like a champion and kick whatever's ailing you to the curb, come join FODMAP Freedom. It's a rad place to be, and we don't demonize carbs, nor FODMAPs. So it's pretty delicious over in FODMAP Freedom land. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.